This video will explore how to find the area of a triangle, and I know this is a rectangle, but I want to use that to explain where the formula comes from. If I was to divide this rectangle in half, it would be obvious to anybody looking at this that the area of this triangle would be half of the area of the rectangle. Starting with the area of the rectangle, the formula is area equals base times height. I know sometimes teachers teach this as length times width, but it's just different letters. So I'm saying base because it's the bottom and height because of how tall it is. And since this triangle is half of the rectangle, I've cut it in half and we're trying to find the area of this part. If the area of the rectangle was base times height, well, then the area of the triangle, this part that's shaded, would be half of the area of the rectangle. And that's how we get the formula for the area of a triangle. So here we have a triangle. The base is 14 and the height is 10. So I start by writing the formula for the area of a triangle. And when you do this, spread it out a little bit. One of the problems that some students have is when you are finding the area of a triangle and you're plugging in numbers, that things get too crowded and you lose track because of a lack of neatness. So I go left to right, which is our algebra rule. First, I bring down the equal sign and bring down the 1/2. And then in parentheses, when I substitute, I want to do the base is 14 and the height is 10. Now this says to take 1/2. I can take half of one of these two numbers right away, and I'm going to take half of 14, and that's 7. And then all that's left is for me to do 7 times 10 is 70. And now this over here, I need to have units in my answer, and it says these two slashes here. It's not an 11 for an exponent. This just means inches. So we're going to say inches squared. And then I bring down the A for area and box my answer. Now this triangle looks different from the other one because I don't have a right triangle where the base and the height are the sides of the triangle. When you get a triangle like this in a practice problem, the dotted line inside is what is going to tell you the height. Now, sometimes triangles would also have numbers on the sides over here, but the only ones that you're going to use, the base and the height are always at a right angle to each other, and that's what this little box here in the corner means. So I start by writing the formula for the area of a triangle, which is 1/2 base times height, and spread it out because you are going to substitute. Remember, when you substitute, you want to use parentheses, otherwise the number can look very different. So here, I'm going to bring down the equals, bring down the 1/2, and instead of the base, I'm going to write the 12. If I don't substitute with parentheses, and then for the h I put a 9, it looks like I have 129 here, but what I really have is 12 times 9. Now, I can take half of one of these two numbers, and I want to do that right away. If you have an even number, half of 12 is 6. I have 6 times 9 is 54. My units is given over here as meters. Make sure you put that over here. And I bring down the A and box my answer. And here we have a third type of a triangle. Again, the sides of the base and the height are not necessarily sides of the triangle. This dotted blue line that's outside is telling me what the height of the triangle is, and this line over here is the base of the triangle. So the base and the height are always going to be at a right angle to each other. Again, we start by writing the formula for the area of a triangle and spread it out. And then when we go to substitute, bring down the equals, bring down the 1/2, and with the substitution, you're going to put it in parentheses. The base is the bottom, so that's 14. The height is 12. And then I want to take half of one of these numbers. They're both even, so I can take half of 14, and that's a 7. I want to get rid of the biggest number. And then 7 times 12 is 84. And then our units is centimeters, so I have centimeters squared, and I bring down the A. Here we have, we're back to a right triangle, and the sides are the actual sides of the triangles are the base and the height. So you're going to start by putting area equals 1/2 base times height. But you'll notice that this time the sides are in fraction form. So I'm going to put 1/2 times the base, and the base is 7/8, times the height, which is 2/5. Now, when you're trying to simplify and you have three fractions, as long as everything is being multiplied, this doesn't work when you're adding or subtracting fractions. But I'm allowed to cross simplify any numerator with any denominator. So 2 goes into itself once, 2 goes into itself once, and then when I multiply straight across, I get 1 times 7 times 1, so 7 is the numerator. And on the bottom, I have 1 times 8 times 5, and that's 40. I need the units, which is meters, and it's squared, and I bring down the A. Working with fractions shouldn't scare you. I actually prefer fractions to decimals for the fact that most of the time you don't even need a calculator for something like this. Since I just spoke about how I love working with decimals, we're going to do one area problem for triangles with decimals. So I start by writing the formula. Area equals 1/2 base times height. Now, since I'm working with decimals, I can write this as 0.5. I'm just going to leave it as half because I'll show you why in a second. So I have 8.4 is the base, and the height is 3.2. First thing I want to do is I want to take half of one of the two numbers. I like to take, if they're both even numbers, I'll take half of the bigger one. So this is going to be 4.2. And then when I multiply straight across, 4.2 times 3.2 is 13.44. And our units are feet squared. I bring down the A for area. And that one's done. On this last example, I welcome you to pause the video and try to do this one on your own. I am just going to point out that both of these are odd numbers, but you can still take half of these two numbers. So I start by writing the formula, which is area equals 1/2 base times height. I start by bringing down the equal sign and the 1/2. My base is 7.1. And the height is 3.5. I want to take half of one of the numbers. And if you don't know how to do this in your head, you can either use a calculator or you can come over here and just do long division. So I have 7.1. I'm cutting it in half, so I'm dividing by 2. I put the decimal in the answer. 2 goes into 7 3 times. 2 goes into 11 5 times. I add a 0, and 2 goes into 10 5 times. So this is going to be 3.55. So I'm going to put 3.55 times 3.5. So 3.55 times 3.5 is 12.425. The units are meters, so the area is meters squared. I bring down the A. And we're done.